So let's take a deep breath, all of us, me included. And today we're going to move from the mindfulness of body, breath, emotions, and thought exclusively to move into the subject of empathy a little bit more, and to really understand that once we understand our own minds, this is actually a quote from Joseph Goldstein's, the more we understand everyone else. We increasingly feel the commonality of our human condition and of what creates suffering and how we can be free. And so what we hopefully have learned, well, tell me, what have you learned in the 4-5 weeks since we've been really focused on mindful meditation? What have you learned about the vastness of your mind and the places in your mind?
Well, I think that's exactly it. We've learned about the vastness of our mind and places in our mind that we weren't necessarily aware of prior to having the opportunity to meditate and focus.
How about others of you? Any surprises in terms of what you've been experiencing?
For me, it's more an advance of my technical abilities to meditate, because I always assumed I couldn't do it because I fidget and my mind wanders, but you taught us to give ourselves permission to recognize that and just move on from it instead of saying, okay, well, I failed, it's over. And this is the first time I've been successful at it, ever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And remembering that our name is Ivri, and that there's always the opportunity to come back. So
now I approach it knowing I'm going to be relaxed after meditating instead of anticipating it being stressful, which is self-defeating. So.
Right, it gets you really stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Gets you stuck and just keep. I don't know if it's continuing to work or not. So, others exploring things, have learned things.
I've been trying to integrate the spiritual part more into my life, make it the primary, kind of inversing my priorities and trying to make space for it on a regular basis. I'm not always successful, but...
So what are some of the obstacles you've come up against the most? What are some of the things? I mean, clearly the expectation that it is supposed to be perfect is a big obstacle. That's and that's really the judgment, the mind of judgment, that doesn't just allow yourself to be present and accepting of whatever is. What are some of the other obstacles you've encountered?
Sometimes getting lost in all of the thoughts that pop up because you're trying to focus in on something.
So how do you work with them now when they come up?
I now will lean into whatever the thought is and sort of let it happen, and then I'll be able to let it go rather than trying to fight against it. And I was going to say earlier, that's something that I've been doing with emotions. Rather than trying to push them to the side, I give myself a second and try to go inside and find out why that emotion's happening and lean into it, and then I can let it go rather than just holding on to it all day.
And hopefully not identifying with it too strongly as if the emotions or the story around the emotions or the thoughts that you have about having those emotions. Hopefully, as I have said over and over, you don't build a castle and move in and take that as your real sense of who you are and your total identity. Other people, I know sometimes just finding time to do it is I don't know if this is working or not. I've tried, yeah, there we go. Others of you?
Definitely time and fighting off interruptions.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do you work with the interruptions?
I haven't quite figured that one out yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a roommate who, even when she knows I'm studying, will still just suddenly decide she needs to talk to me.
Uh-huh. Well, one of the things that we can do, I mean, an intrusive roommate who keeps talking, even though you say, please, I'm doing something, is a bigger issue. But just like sometimes we have that one meditation that's just all bells, and each time you hear the bell, it's sort of a reminder to go back. back, to see where your mind is, and then to use the bell as an opportunity to find that out, and then return to your mindful practice. Sometimes when the interruptions come, they also can be welcomed in that way. And how are they reverberating inside of us? How are we feeling them? And how can we use them to just return to home base, to the home base? Any other questions or anything before we go into today's practice?
Sometimes I find it really difficult to go from things that have to be done, assignments for homework, and then shift back to the spiritual place, because it's
You
all-
mean assignments for other places?
Yes, yeah, of things that have to do in everyday life, and so it's not integrated. It's either or. I don't know if the goal would be to do even the other tasks in a more spiritual way.
Well, I think that that's really the goal of all of it is, and I believe it was you. Oh no, your description of making the Hamantashen, and turning into this chore of making how many 400? 450 of these little pastries, but doing it in such a way that it became a mindful practice. And so hopefully all of that's the goal. I had a whole bunch of people for dinner on Shabbat, and as I made jambalaya, kosher jambalaya, and so it required a lot of cutting. So I tried to be very mindful with each slice. All right, so let's go and let's close our eyes. I'm sorry about the light, but we have to do that. And we set the bells for.
How long?
Let's do 10 minutes.
Any interval bell?
Yeah, how about a bell? Random?
Never mind. It's a free app, and I'd have to pay for it.
Oh, okay. All right. So no. So we'll do that. Why don't we stop this for the period that we're doing